Welcome to the past, where you'll get information related to sports, video games, technology, music, and our all-time favorite ass of the week. .189 of the past is here. What is going on, y'all? What's good? I'm your host, BT, doing yet another episode. The past is flowing. The past is moving. Not gonna lie, man. I know I wanted to get on and do a show yesterday. There were things that just kind of changed that, so we're not gonna really make that a hold over the process. We'll still move forward. Hope everyone's doing well on this Sunday morning, afternoon, or day whenever you listen to the show, or if you listen to it on Monday or whenever your time allows you to. As I always share, podcasts are uploaded to Spreaker.com. If you're looking to get into podcasting, that is where I've housed and stored majority of my shows, if not all of them, obviously. And the microphone that you're hearing me on that just made that aggressively loud click was thanks to the Blue Yeti microphone. Those links will be in the show notes. So as we always start out each week with the podcast, we like to go ahead and do our weekly angel number. And the angel number this week, I'm trying to find stuff as usual. Y'all know I never can stay on task. The angel number this week represents the episode number. And since it's episode 189, we'll be going over the angel number for 189. Numbers are everywhere. There is a number of where you live. Your office block has a number, same as your workstation. The exit you use on a highway when taking a weekend trip has a number. The most interesting bit is that these places that surround you daily always happen to have the same number, and you wonder why. That number 189 has a special message to you, and here it is. Angel 189 says that you were created for a reason. The message from your angel is live your purpose on this earth. Don't dwell so much under another person's wings. Instead, forge into the unknown, swim into the deep end, and learn how to float on your own. That way you will be inventive and use all the skills that you have, not go underwater. Angel number 189 meaning shows that you have a lot of abilities, but you are just sitting on them, or you are using them to make your life better. Time waits for no man, so get out of limbo and run after your dreams, because your guardian angels are there to guide you in the right way. Don't just sit and wait for things to happen. Start moving and put in that extra effort. Inventors didn't wake up one day and come up with something and it worked. They did many tests and failed until they achieved the best results. Your angel number is telling you to practice patience and keep on trying no matter how many times you fail. Have the self-discipline to not give up on what you have started until it works. Have faith and be unshaken in what you put your mind into. This way, nothing will stand between you and your destiny. Angel number 1, number 8, and number 9 ask you to not leave matters incomplete. Instead, see them to conclusion. For you to move forward, don't have things and issues that are still pending. This will always drag you behind because in your mind you know there is something somewhere that still needs your attention. If it is an unhealthy relationship that is making you lag behind, break up and move on. Concentrate on better things that will grow you. The message from angel number 189 is that of independence, not to be quitters and concluding matters so as to have a fresh and better start. So this one is this is going to be a big story. I'm going to chop into this a little bit and we'll not make everything too rampant, because I do notice last week doing a 1 hour show was a little cool, a little new, but something that worked. Things in our lives are unfinished sometimes, and in most cases we shouldn't leave those things unfinished, because having something be unfinished is stopping you from getting something else possibly achieved. as a blogger and obviously as a podcaster, the worst thing to do is leave a draft or leave something unresolved or unfinished on the table. If you have that thing that you're trying to do, go ahead and get it done. Because the more you don't do it, the more you're going to sit and play the what if and I shoulda, coulda, woulda instead of just doing it. And I'm saying this to you all and I'm reading this to you, but I'm literally reading this to myself and really holding strong to these words. It's not going to be easy, but as everyone constantly says and as we're constantly reminded, life isn't easy. So you have to remember that when going into this flow of the 189 angel number. If you do need to read that message or gain access to it, as I share each time, it will be in the show notes. And once again, this week, as I share each week, domestic violence is not a lighthearted story. So if you do see yourself or do find yourself in a crisis or in a situation, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or 7233, or you can go to www.thehotline.org. We're still in May. We're in the last couple of days of May, and it is still Mental Health Awareness Month. If there's anything mentally blocking you or going through your mind, reach out and get help. I'll say this and then I'll do my, our brief sponsor flow and get into these topics. You don't want to hide or hold your feelings about something because of pride. And sometimes we do that because we don't want anyone to know what's going on with us. By nature, we go to our friends, we go to our parents, we go to people who know us. But sometimes an anonymous ear or an anonymous source is the best reliable source of an ear for being able to give you an outside listen, as well as part of their process is when they talk with you or address things with you regarding your mental health or your therapy or whatever the case may be, it's in confidentiality. They can't share that information with anyone else, and they're not supposed to, and it's part of what they sign up for in taking in that specific practice. As I always share, and as I remind you all, Vernetta and her husband, as well as Charlene Saunders, they are doing a Taste of Heaven RVA. If you want to check them out for some good food, their address is 10101 Brook Road, and that is in Glen Allen, Virginia, 23059. Phone number is 804-266-2509, and their email address is atasteofheavenrva@gmail.com. And as I share with you as well, if you're looking to get your home cleaned, Peachy Clean RVA number is 804-726-0366. They are in charge or ran by Sherry Winston, who is a cleaning specialist, and that is Peachy, Peachie, Clean RVA LLC. Now for the good shit. Last time I left you all, we did the podcast last week, we had our participants for the conference finals. And we've played a couple of games since then, so now we can kind of really run with this show and go into the madness flow known as the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference finals. I'm going to tell y'all now, I will be as unbiased and unfiltered in this conversation in what I've seen and what has been observed or presented through media, etc. Going to the West first, because normally I always do West last. Houston and Golden State are tied 1-1. Houston made a huge mistake, and that was giving up game one at home. Someone did talk to me and asking me how did I feel about game one, or how did I feel it would go regarding game one. And I know it's always a redundant statement of game one kind of tells or sets the mood of the series, but it really set the mood of this series, and I'll briefly explain why, and then we'll jump into the Eastern Conference. You have Golden State, who has built a very strong team, playing against Houston, who has a pretty good team with adding Chris Paul for leadership, and this is his first go around in conference finals because he's never gotten this far. And they're playing against like I said, they're playing against Golden State, who has 4 good All-Stars. They kind of made a lineup rotation by taking Zaza Pachulia out of the starting lineup, which I think is great. Smart move on their part. And kind of just transitioning things accordingly, which I have no problem with at all. I will say this. Golden State, if Golden State wins both games in Golden State, if they win today in Golden State and they win game 4, Houston is going to have their hands full. And I know that's kind of like Brian, we know that. It's not about knowing it. It's about it being evident and put into a physical viewing. Because Golden State is on a pursuit of, they could care less about regular season. And that's something that Toronto didn't get right when we talked about that with the East. Regular season is great. Getting a 2 seed or a 3 seed is not really a press. It's getting to the finals and defending your title in Golden State's case. Houston is obviously trying to get them to avoid that. So Houston has a big push too. Golden State and Houston both have big pushes. Now, one of 3 things can happen. Golden State wins both games. Houston is in trouble. Houston wins both games. Golden State got to fight, and it goes back to Houston. Keep that in mind. Or the third option is they split, and we're kind of at a best of 3 series. So that's kind of what you're working with, or what you're kind of competing for on the Western side. The East, on the other hand, Cleveland is in trouble. No one wants to hear this. I've read this on a couple of social media sources, or people have stated this, that they feel as though the league is rigged. They're trying to find a way to get Cleveland into the finals. I hear all of that. If Boston wins game 4, Cleveland not going to no finals. I'm just going to put it out there. There's a slim to no chance we're going to see Golden State and Cleveland in the finals. I'm saying that now, and I'm repeating it again. There's no chance of Golden State and Cleveland competing in the NBA finals starting on May 31st. I had to make sure I got the dates right because it's a lot going on. But anywho, the first 2 games of the series, and I had to think about it because I want to see how I'm going with this. The first 2 games between Boston and Cleveland, it was all Boston. LeBron did everything that he could, but there was no help. And that's been kind of been the theme of Cleveland this year. Cleveland getting a second player, I got it. They had Wade during the season, but they had a washed up Wade. I'm sorry. I mean, call a spade a spade. Kevin Love in 2 years is not the same Kevin Love that was in that I'm leaving Minnesota Kevin Love, where you're getting a much different Kevin Love. J.R. Smith, I think he got amnesia after the championship. He hasn't really been the same guy. A lot of your role players that came in thanks to the trade, that really wasn't the best mesh. We go back to it briefly, but I'll say it again. Isaiah Thomas being on Cleveland at the time for the extent that he was there was not the solution. That's why he was sent off so fast. So right now, my blind shot of my pick, looking at it now, I mean, Game 3 will kind of tell the story for Houston. I want Houston to go to the finals. If it's Houston and Boston, that would be a huge, interesting scenario. Because if Golden State play Boston, it's not going to be a chance. I'm just telling you that now. And I know that's like me shooting down Boston's dreams, but it's going to be it's not going to be that simple. I don't really see Cleveland. I don't see Cleveland getting to the finals this year. And that'll be a big ESPN stat. So prepare for that if Cleveland doesn't make it. Because it'll be the first time, I think, in 7 or 8 years that LeBron has not participated in the NBA Finals. So let that one marinate for a while. Don't get too emotional, but it's coming, or it could come. swimming or sliding over to a story that is going to blow people's minds but be accepted as where we are now. There is a huge hit on gambling with sports because there's been kind of a limbo of whether sports gambling would be legalized or how it would be processed and how that would benefit. And I'll read the story and then we'll kind of go into it as we always do. The Supreme Court struck down a federal law that prohibits sports gambling Monday in a landmark decision that gives states the go-ahead to legalize betting on sports. The court ruled 4-3 to strike down the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, which was a 1992 law that barred state-authorized sports gambling with some exceptions. It made Nevada the only state where a person could wager on the results of a single game. If any of you all know or understand that, whenever you watch or hear stories and they say Vegas odds, there you go. States that want to offer legal sports betting may now do so, and New Jersey plans to be the first. Delaware, Mississippi, New York, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia are among the states expected to quickly get into the legal booking game. The court ruled in favor of New Jersey and against the NCAA, NFL, NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball, capping a nearly 6-year legal battle of overturning a federal statute that sports leagues had adamantly stood by for more than 20 years. And then there's other information. I'm not going to read this A to Z. But long story short, gambling in sports is going to be allowed to be legalized based on states giving it the green light to be set up. What this means is you're not constrained strictly to online websites or the betting odds within like Las Vegas or Nevada for whatever reason. This is huge, and I've talked with someone about this, and I'll bring this kind of as a wild card to everyone's attention. We're seeing it now with sports as far as basketball, football, baseball, hockey, etc. How will this go? Now you also, and I've never talked about this too often, but we do have the Preakness did just occur, and I think it was Justice did win the second leg, so they're in pursuit to possibly get the Triple Crown. They did win the Kentucky Derby, so that's something to think about when it comes to gambling, because now it's not just limited or constrained to Las Vegas. But what I was going to bring up and present that no one's going to really look at, esports. How will esports get into the gambling or sports betting scene? Something to think about. I know we're in the sports part, but it was something that crossed my mind, so I wanted to kind of get that out there and get your brains going a little bit. But this is a big law, and it's a big change, and I think it's going to, we know it's going to benefit, but obviously it's going to be a benefit to teams that are really trying to like make that next transition or big step in the gambling world, because DraftKings kind of phased out a little bit. If you really notice, a lot of the other big name stories that were doing gambling and stuff that had that presentation, they're not as in the mix as they used to be. So it's just that obvious or evident thought that it's time for change, and we're going through that change now. And I threw the legalized story in there because I wanted to make sure I got that presented, but to spin back to basketball, because I always like to give y'all this scoop. Game of Zones did release their newest episode. The link is in the show notes. All I can say is it's about the Knicks, and it kind of gives the backstory of the Knicks in giving Porzingis the option and figuring out what he should or shouldn't do as far as staying with the team. Because a lot of times loyalty can get you, I won't say loyalty can get you killed, but loyalty can put you in a risky place. But they show Porzingis in his, initially injured state, kind of resting up and just going through the various contracts and issues that the Knicks have had. And of all people, you have Walt Clyde Frazier presenting this to them. I like what Bleacher Report did. I always love what their shows are. If they had Clyde in one of his aggressive, loud, intense suits, it would have made it even better. But that was just me thinking aloud and just looking at that from a different standpoint. Spinning to soccer, we have the Premier League. The Premier League is officially complete. Liverpool and Chelsea were fighting for the fourth spot to see who would be able to go to the UEFA Champions League. And Liverpool did their part by winning, but Chelsea really didn't do the best in getting their win against their opponent for the final game of the week. They went up against Huddersfield and actually tied. I'm sorry, they did not tie. Let me make sure I'm giving you the correct score. They played Newcastle on last Sunday, and they lost 3-0. Liverpool, on the other hand, had played Brighton, and Brighton lost 4-0 against Liverpool. So Liverpool had that fourth seed. Chelsea's going to the Europa Championship, and that's kind of where the things stand with that. Arsenal, they did send Wenger off, which was a big shot, big hit. Man U played Chelsea yesterday in the FA Cup, and Chelsea was able to get an early penalty kick, and that was pretty much the only score of the game. So they were able to win the FA Cup. So Chelsea got something out of the deal this year. As I like to call it, those who are being sent off and departing from the Premier League next season. Southampton, Swansea City, Stoke City, and West Brom. Goodbye. See y'all. It's been good. It's been real. But those 4 teams will be relegated down to not Premier League, but to the English League. I think it's English League 1, if I'm not mistaken. New segment that I'm going to give a try, and I think this can work because with sports and with activities, there are always events going on. So I like to be fair and I like to be balanced in my presentation because I talk about a lot of sports, and right now I feel like this is going to work. So I'm going to kind of give a brief presentation to explain this. Last week I went to an event, and it was a bloggers event, but I met other people who did podcasting, which was great. Did one wellness, meditation, relieving stress, things of that nature, and it was just what I needed. After we did the meditation and the relaxation portion, someone came to me with an idea and asking me, it wasn't an idea, they just asked me, it was like, do you do local sports? And I had to kind of double back, like, local sports? Why would I? And then I thought about it, I was like, you have, where the event was near my old high school. So high school football, high school basketball, high school high school events that are going on. I know a lot of the high school stuff is kind of finishing up right now, which is fine. But you still got your minor league teams that are playing, which I'm going to add and implement into the show today. So a couple of teams that you hear talked about in Richmond constantly and frequently are the Richmond Flying Squirrels, which I'm going to talk about that if you are not from Richmond and have no idea what this refers to, and the Richmond Kickers. So the Flying Squirrels had a pretty balanced week. There were 3 games that were to be played, and they were canceled due to inclement weather. So Altoona and their 2 matches with Harrisburg both were canceled or postponed due to inclement weather. And Altoona, the other 2 games with Altoona on the 14th and the 15th, one was a win, one was a loss. Trenton, they did lose, and they played a back-to-back against Harrisburg on yesterday. They won the first game and lost the second game, and tonight they play Harrisburg again, today they play Harrisburg, and they're actually in warm-ups now. With the Richmond going into soccer. The Richmond Kickers did have a pretty good week, to say the least. The Kickers played against the Tampa Bay Rowdies on the 12th, and they did win 1-0. And they played Reading United on the 16th, which was the U.S. Open Cup, and that was second round, and they won 4-3 based on penalties. So props to U.S. for, not U.S., but to the Richmond Kickers for that achievement. Quick spin-off and quick segue into stuff, which I didn't expect, but we're here. Just getting something prepared because I want to make sure that I'm not too far behind myself. All right. So we're at our stuff stage. We're here with our other side of the podcast, which is our tech and music and games and things of that nature. As of right now, there is a Smash tournament that is on. I literally lost the name of it that fast. Get on My Level 2018 is going on right now for the Smash tournament. They're doing Smash 4 currently. So if you want to check them out, it is on Even Matchup Gaming under Twitch. And that's where you can kind of get a feel for a couple of the tournaments and action going on up in Canada right now. First story I have related to our articles that we have shared in our show notes. Snapchat has heard everyone's complaints due to their updates, and they have went ahead and did the redesign of their app. They redesigned their redesign. So basically, it's kind of almost the algorithm of Instagram 2.0. If anyone does or doesn't remember, Instagram decided we're not going to do chronological order. Some pages still have it. I know for mine, I'm still having to go through, and I may see something from 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm like catching up. But Snapchat did the option of you had to go to a separate option to see everybody's stories. They went back to the original format where stories and the BuzzFeed is all on one page. A lot of this was kind of made as a change and an adjustment based on them going live with their stock, and this kind of just change. That change, when that initial change occurred, it wasn't the greatest change, and everyone was not pleased or satisfied with the adjustment. So they reverted back to their original option with Snapchat, which I think is great. The gaming scene, I have a massive announcement that I will go ahead and share and get people revved up for. Black Ops 4 has released released their newest trailer. They did an unveiling back on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. They did an unveiling of the new trailer. Actually, I take that back. That was on Thursday. Thursday they released and showed what it was going to look like. People are excited because they're kind of going with the Fortnite style as far as doing a battle royale. There may be some changes or adjustments due to there no longer being a single player mode and single player referring to campaign mode. There won't be a campaign mode on this upcoming Black Ops 4. But they did go over some of the maps. They kind of gave you an overview of the weapons, the health, things of that nature for Call of Duty Black Ops 4. There are plenty of videos. The zombie feature is what will be implementing the Battle Royale. Like I said, you can check all of those out on the link from The Verge. And the game will be coming out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on October 12th. All right, so I'm backlogging a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that I did not go back on my word, because I did promise everyone that we talked about Google I/O, but I really didn't tell y'all much about what Google I/O was talking about. They did have an article that was listed. That article kind of explains and tells everything on its end. I have show notes this time around, and I actually did find a video. And this is something that I've learned too with a lot of events. Keynotes are very, I won't say long-winded, keynotes are very detailed, but keynotes tell a lot of things that some of it is like, I'm not going to even pay any attention to that or really factor it in, but it's something important to think of. So some of the things that they talked about was Smart Composer. They're looking to recreate Google photo enhancements. They're looking at WaveNet, which is a new Google, which will give options for new Google Assistant voices, which I think is big. They gave an example of booking a hair appointment as far as how you can set up by just stating, hey, book an appointment with this salon. And it's almost like it reaches out to, with the WaveNet feature, it's going to reach out to that salon and act as an actual person to create a conversation. Now, I/O events and keynotes always make everything look like it's fluid, but once you get the product or once it's working, you end up seeing for yourself that it's not the greatest of. It's got to go through its bugs and its kinks. Google News is going to get a better interface for those who like to keep track of news through Google. A lot of times when we look up stories, like by nature, when people look up stories online, if they search for something, if you're using Chrome, it'll show a couple of the stories in the news tabs first, and then you can go to news and kind of look through and see what specifically you're looking for a certain topic. But news is going to get a bit of a facelift. They're factoring in your digital well-being as far as looking at how you're managing your time through your day. They're presenting the option of what's called Shush, or is a do not disturb feature with the phone. It'll be a much simpler option with most users for phone. Like I know for iPhone, you have to go in and set do not disturb, but sometimes in most cases you may have a set time for your do not disturb to be available or not available. With the newer updates for Google, it'll be as simple as you turning over your phone and then it'll go into do not disturb mode. Let's see. They talked about a self-driving car known as Waymo, which should be that'll be a big thing. It's just that it's a matter of if and when and how that comes out or gets released or presented to the masses. So those are most of the things that were like the key things that were talked about at Google I/O. I wanted to make sure I didn't, because I know when I came and talked about it not too long ago, I kind of looked at it as, okay, we're going to talk about the keynote and we'll just talk about it and that's it, and really not give you much information beyond that. So, as I always like to call it, this is the now hearing or now listening play or flow of the podcast as far as like what stations I've been listening to, what music I've been playing. There was a lot of, and I say this frequently and constantly, but a lot of music dropped, a lot of music released. I got introduced to a couple songs along the way. Let's see. To share what my iPod is going to, I actually did venture a little bit because I had to kind of get a refresher course on a little bit of music, because I know about K-pop. I know about K-pop music as far as Korean. I saw J-pop and I kind of had two and two, but I was like, let me just double check. So I did listen to some Japanese pop or J-pop music, but I listened to BTS, Karjishi, Realm. That's a pretty good album. Polylife Multisoul by Zero. That was the J-pop album that I listened to. And let's see, Maluma was a new album that released. Went kind of back in the archive a little bit to listen to Miguel, because I was a little late to the Miguel party as far as with War and Leisure. Skywalker wasn't one of my biggest pulls at the time. I did listen to the artist Kyle a little bit, Light of Mine. James Bay, which is an alternative played for Electric Light. And let's see, let's give y'all a couple more, and then we'll go into the ads of the week. Someone else had played an old album, Tierra Thomas's album FWMM. So I gave that a spin to check it out. Let's see. Yeah, that was mainly my musical flow for this week. There wasn't much of a new or a heavy rotation of like new albums or new artists that I was kind of like jumping on this year or this week for playlists. As always, music comes out on Friday, so a lot of times trying to get albums in and listen and see what's new, and then I have the list that shows a couple of songs that are out there, but just kind of getting the next set in line to listen to is kind of the biggest thing. Now we get to what will probably take up majority of the podcast, the asses of the week. And both of these stories get very special credibilities for their own special reasons, and we'll just talk about them and give our input or give my input on them as we feel fit. So the first story, Israeli football club has renamed Beitar Trump Jerusalem in honor of Donald Trump. I just wanted to put honor in emphasis to let people know. Oh, before I continue, because everyone's talking about it, I'm not really going to give a massive attention to it, but there was a royal wedding, and that's that. The Israeli club Beitar Jerusalem have incorporated U.S. President Donald Trump's name into their own ahead of the inauguration of the new American embassy in the city back on Monday. The club announced the change on their official Facebook page and Twitter. The statement says, for 70 years has Jerusalem been awaiting international recognition until President Donald Trump, in a courageous move, recognized Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Israel. President Trump has shown courage and true love to the Israeli people and their capital, and these days other countries are following his lead in giving Jerusalem its rightful status. The chairman of the club, the owner, Eli Tabib, and the executive manager, Eli Ohana, have decided to add the club's title the name of the American president who made history, and from now will be called Beitar Trump Jerusalem. Trump officially recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital in December, a decision that received widespread condemnation in the international community. The city is viewed by Palestinians and Muslims worldwide as the capital of their future state, and controlling it is one of the central issues in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The change, one of the sports journalists feels that the name will not be permanent. And they just go into a little bit more detail about that. So I guess because he was able to get them the attention necessary as being known as the inauguration of new American embassy, let's give him recognition by naming our soccer team after him. Go Trump. I really don't I only gave this a funny attention and ass of the week spin because of the fact that it was like, of all names, this was the ooh and ah, like, let's give Trump some credibility because he's made us feel relevant and feel important. So I'm not gonna say props him, shouts him, because that's not gonna happen. So normally I don't do shade room posts, but this was a funny shade room, but then it was even funnier to find the actual story when it broke. So a 25-year-old man who is in Texas was arrested for posing as a high school student and playing basketball for the high school. And there's a possibility that he may have had a relationship with an underage girl. Before I continue reading this story, I want you to know the names that I'm reading are not made up names, because I shared this story with someone and they laughed because they thought it was like these were names that I was making up on the fly. Sidney Bouvier Gilstrap Portley pretended he was a victim of Hurricane Harvey and enrolled himself at Skyline High School in Dallas before transferring to Hillcrest High School, Fox 4 reported. However, he told the officials at Hillcrest he was homeless and made no mention of being a hurricane victim. Unfortunately, this was a perfect storm, no pun intended. Dallas Independent School District Superintendent Michael Hinojosa said, "When we had the issue of Hurricane Harvey in the Houston area, he took advantage of that and portrayed himself as a victim of that and enrolled himself in one of our schools." Hinojosa said his district has liberal policies when it comes to enrolling homeless students, and Gilstrap Portly used that leniency when he enrolled at Hillcrest. He went under the name Rashawn Richardson and claimed he was 17 years old. The mother of a 14-year-old girl said Gilstrap Portly also inappropriately touched her daughter while at Hillcrest as he was becoming popular on the basketball team. The girl told her parents that he kissed and touched her, but she said she didn't have a sexual relationship with him. He was popular. A lot of the girls liked him, and he was giving her attention though. The woman never suspected Gilstrap Portly of posing as a younger man until a detective approached her Monday about the possibility of him wanting to relive his high school athletic career. "I'm upset, frustrated, angry, and sad at the same time. If it's happening at Hillcrest and it could be happening somewhere else, people need to know it could have gone differently if he had other intentions to hurt her or to traffic her." Gilstrap Portly was arrested and charged with felony tampering with government documents for filing false enrollment records. Police were investigating his alleged relationship with the 14-year-old girl. He graduated North Mesquite High School in 2011. So 7 years later, you decide that you want to go back and relive your high school dream of being a basketball player. Dumb question that I still have was, how many points did you average for Hillcrest High? If you did not average at least 10 points a game, the dream was a waste. Just going to tell it like it is. That's number one. Number two, the involvement with people who were at the school made it even worse. Number three, and the icing on the cake, is of all the things to use as a way of getting into the school, presenting that you were homeless, like, why? I mean, people actually were homeless and people were impacted by the hurricane. And here you are using it as a way to get in school. So those things just made it like real. It just gave him credit for being ass of the week, because it's like, here it is 7 years later, you want to go back and like be a child again. It's like most people, and it's kind of like it's a reverse of options, because adults to this day still say it, and I'm always guilty of presenting it. When you're younger, you look at it as, I wish I was an adult. And then when you're an adult, you're like, I wish I was a kid. But that doesn't mean, just because I wish I was a kid does not mean that I want to go back to high school and relive my high school dreams. Like, that's not like, all right, I'm 35. Let me go back to prom so I can really enjoy prom night. Like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, that just was dumb and that was stupid. And I don't have this story listed, but I do want to send out prayers and condolences to those who were involved in the shooting in Texas. Like, that is a very tragic situation to occur. I've not really talked much on it. I do, it's kind of bad with just talking about the whole thing with Trump, but the gun violence and the NRA and all this is, we watching y'all moves. So do something that makes some sense. That's my best thing, best way I can put it. But all of that being said, like, that was a very horrific scene, and it hasn't been that long ago with us, with the country, let alone the world, trying to recover as it is with everything that happened in Florida. So hearts and prayers and deep thoughts go to those involved in that shooting. And that's mainly our podcast this week. Very simple. Y'all know I'm trying to work on not being as wordy and long-winded and talking about different topics, but most of what happened kind of was what it was. So as always, thank y'all for tuning in. Past podcasts on all social platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchats, all of that stuff. We'll be possibly looking at the We may have our teams ready for the finals next week. I can't make any promises for that because I'm not a NBA analyst of that extreme. But should be a good set of games coming up. Houston plays tonight, and we will be continuing the playoff run. Pending on what happens in hockey, I might have some hockey news to share next week. So just stay tuned for that. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Continue to love and enjoy the shows. If you want to go back to listen to any previous episodes, passpodcast.com will guide you there. And if you just type in episode and a number, you can listen to any shows. Please subscribe. Subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe to the podcast page. Those subscribes and check-ins are appreciated. As always, this is the Pass signing out. BT leaving y'all with yet another episode. Take care. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get any information specifically based on the shows, you can go to Spreaker.com/BriTayPodcast or go to www.passpodcast.com. On both of those options, you do have the information related to what topics were talked about, the timestamps for the episode, as well as the specific links related to that specific story. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, the Pass signing out.
でもそんなんじゃダ